I was eager to see what the WWE was going to do with Raw this week. There's been a lot of negative publicity and talk and chatter about this company in the past week to 10 days or so. So I wanted to see what direction they were going to go. I wanted to see what they were going to do. And the best way I could describe this was, you've got the debut of the WWE Network in 3 weeks. You've got WrestleMania 30 in about 2 months. And it feels like right now, in my humblest of humble opinions, if that's possible, that the WWE is choking worse than a Peyton Manning-led team in a big game. Oh yeah, I went there. WWE decided to go with old reliable. You got to start off the show with the Breakfast Club promo. It just wouldn't feel right if you didn't do that, huh? Oh, good Christ. I thought Randy Orton was supposed to be the face of the WWE, and I thought he was supposed to be the champion hand-selected by the Authority. So why does the Authority come out each and every single week and seem to want to undermine and undercut the guy that they chose to be the WWE champion? It's like the WWE just can't help themselves. Instead of throwing all of their eggs into the Randall Keith Orton basket, they've still got to try and make Stephanie and Triple H especially more important than anybody else. And all the while, it's starting to fall into this kind of predictable pattern of the same people starting off the show in the same way each and every single week. And frankly, I'm getting kind of tired of it. Right after that opening promo segment, which I will say this wasn't all that incredibly long, and it didn't need to be. It was in, get your point across, and move on, set up the table for the main event of the night, and there you go. And that's what they did. The 6-man tag with the Shield against a hodgepodge of opponents like Rey Mysterio and Big E Langston. This was designed to do 2 things. One, that's to continue the storyline of the Shield having some animosity and some friction, eventually leading to their breakup, with Reigns looking like he had things under control, only to have Ambrose come in and get the pin. And then 2, you're trying to ramp them up to face the Wyatts at Elimination Chamber. Me personally, while I maybe would have rather seen this, like a lot of you, I'm sure, at WrestleMania, at least they're giving it to us. At least they're not screwing the pooch on this one. At least they're going to give us one pay-per-view match between these 2 3-man factions. That's a good thing. And to me personally, this should be the match that kicks off Elimination Chamber, and it should be in an Elimination Chamber. You could even have a qualifying match where one team gets to have the advantage. You have the first 2 guys go, one Wyatt family member, one Shield member, and then you wrestle to see who gets that 3rd entrant. So that way you also get the 5th entrant. You get what I'm saying? That way it could be 2-on-1 and 3-on-2, and that'd be a great way to give the Wyatt family an advantage. It's a shame that this is not going to happen at Mania. I'm sure like a lot of you wanted, because they have to clear the table. John Cena needs a WrestleMania opponent, brother. And that's a big spot for a Bray Wyatt, to be fair. Hopefully this leads to a triple threat match between the Shield at WrestleMania. I wonder if they're going to go in the opposite direction, if they're going to have Roman Reigns take on Dean Ambrose for the United States Championship at WrestleMania 30. As they keep mentioning how long of a reigning United States champion Dean Ambrose is, yet I can't frankly remember the last time he defended the damn belt. I thought there used to be this thing where you at least had to defend it every 30 days, or you had to have some type of real damn excuse. It gets to the point where I even forget Dean Ambrose is the United States champion. So bad news, Barrett made his weekly appearance on Raw, but the only bad news to me is I can't remember a damn thing he said. The only thing I remember is that Jerry Lawler very awkwardly said something to the effect of, I've got some bad news for you, Wade. Next week, you might not be around. What the hell was Lawler talking about? That was just odd. What are you going to do, WWE? Are you going to stop the bad news Barrett character and find yet another way to improperly utilize a guy that should have been a main event star for you by now? Well, I'll give you this. You deserve a lot of credit for doing that, because you've managed to do that for 3.5 years now. So why stop now? The match between Christian and Jack Swagger. As I'm watching this, I was tweeting about it on Twitter. The show's Twitter handle, @OffTheRopeShow. Make sure you give it a follow, as I do all this interactive stuff for during Raws, now during Impacts, during the pay-per-views. It's a lot of fun. But as I'm sitting there watching this match, I'm thinking to myself, and I'm tweeting about it, I'm like, you really should be maybe trying to get Cesaro over as a babyface, especially with his babyface skill set, and in particular his babyface Cesaro swing move. But it seems like they're trying to go against the grain. It almost seemed like the way they were presenting this, that Swagger's going to be the one to turn face out of this, which I think is ridiculous in the exact opposite direction that you need to go. Christian, he's in the Elimination Chamber, at least for now. I love how they referenced the fact about his face, the old blue dot gimmick idea. To me, would I complain if they gave me Christian, let's say, versus Antonio Cesaro at WrestleMania? No. I think that would be a good spot and a good match for an Antonio Cesaro. I don't know if that's where they're going. I do kind of hope that's where they're going at this point, because I would give a Cesaro a introductory type of big victory at a Big Four pay-per-view. Kind of help cement him a little bit, I would think. I think either everybody's favorite or second favorite match on the show was probably the tag team title rematch inside of a steel cage, and that being the Rhodes Brothers versus the New Age Outlaws. Now, for me, in my personal opinion, I've always liked steel cage matches that involve escape through the door or the top of the cage. I think it adds more suspense to the match. I think you have more possibilities for things with it, and I think it leads to telling a better story usually. I'm not opposed to having to have a match, a steel cage match, have a pinfall or submission in order to get a victory, but that's just my preference. Now, of course, JDR pointed out on Twitter, and rightfully so, that the traditional escape the cage match finish was designed for egocentric wrestlers, like there aren't egocentric wrestlers in 2014. Nonetheless, you get the whole thing here. This match, it kind of felt like to me at first that the New Age Outlaws seemed to think, I'm too old for this shit. Why am I wrestling in a cage? I also thought it was kind of weird. You're actually having a traditional tag team match inside of a steel cage. I would have rather had this been a tornado-style tag. Maybe, again, it's just me. Where all four of them are going at it at the same time. But it is what it is. As far as the finish, I'm not surprised to see the New Age Outlaws win here. I do wish that Cody Rhodes would not do that moonsault off of the top of the steel cage anytime soon. I think it's a reckless bump. I think it's an unnecessary bump, and I don't think it really tied into the story of the match. How do you go from the disaster kick to going up on top of a 15-foot high steel cage to do a freaking moonsault onto somebody? And these are not like unstoppable Goliaths. This is the New Age Outlaws. Yes, 6-time WWE Tag Team Champions and legends and all of that. But these are guys that their best days are kind of behind them. Do you really need that in order to beat them? It just seems like an unnecessary risk, an unnecessary chance, and a reckless maneuver, frankly. What I was thinking about, though, as I was watching this match, I'm like, man, the New Age Outlaws to me seem to be the perfect guys to put into a program with the Usos after Elimination Chamber, heading into WrestleMania, and have them be the old guard and talk to the Usos about the fact that they're going to make them famous and they're going to make them stars, but that they're still the kings and the Usos are the young, hungry lions. I think it'd have a lot of good dynamic storytelling components heading into it and could make for a good WrestleMania match and be a big signature moment for the Usos as a tag team. A way to take a former face of the WWF's tag team division and have them cement a new tag team as a face of the WWE's tag team in 2014 and beyond. I think it has a lot of possibilities, and I hope that's ultimately where they're going with this. It didn't really seem to tease a lot any split between Cody Rhodes and Goldust here. So I would imagine we'll see that in the weeks to come, because I do want to see that match at WrestleMania. There's no question about it. I knew the time would come eventually where they would split up the primetime players and try to send off Titus O'Neil on his own, and I'm all fine with that. I'm also fine with Zack Ryder apparently completely changing his gimmick and look, so that way the WWE, if they're not going to use him, they're not going to make any money off of him. I love that too. A nice FU by Ryder to the company. But my thing is that I look at Titus O'Neil and I see a babyface. Of course, the WWE sees him as a heel. I'll say this, at least he's getting a chance, at least he's getting an opportunity, at least they're giving him a chance to be pushed, at least it would seem that way. But remember, weren't they just sitting there and turning Brodus Clay heel, and we haven't seen him on since they did that? I'm not all that positive that they're going to do things all that well with Titus O'Neil, because I think they're going against the grain here. People like him, he entertains them. Let him be a babyface, man. I think that's where his skill sets are better suited. One thing that really aggravated me, though, and not just during this match, is matches throughout the night, especially for a guy like Zack Ryder and Titus O'Neil, guys that you should be getting behind as an audience. Why are fans chanting for fucking CM Punk during this match? Put your energy on these guys. These guys are there. These guys are trying to get over. Help them out. Take that energy and use it for something positive, not for CM Punk. In fact, I'm going to talk about this shit Thursday because that was one thing that really aggravated me about this damn show. People chanting for somebody that quit the company. Chant for people that are there. I'm all for fun in professional wrestling. Believe that. I'm all for comedy in professional wrestling. There's a place for that. I'm a huge fan of Santino Marella. Don't ever doubt that. Here's what I'm going to say, though, is that this segment, this dance-off, was not all that much fun. There was not much comedy relief to it, in my opinion. And maybe this segment to me would have had a little more impact if they hadn't spent several weeks pointing out Emma in the crowd. Like maybe actually when you go to do this, just sit there and have her holding up the sign and have never acknowledged it before. Maybe just find a way to subtly show it on camera and then have her make her debut. I'm not going to make a final judgment on her by any stretch of the imagination. I am all for comedy and fun segments, but they need to have some comedy and they need to actually be fun. And once Santino Marella stopped talking, the segment no longer became fun. I really enjoyed the video package that WWE presented in honor of the big cat Ernie Ladd. You know, a lot of younger fans might not be all that familiar with him and the fact that he truly was a big star, both in professional football and later on down the road, obviously, in professional wrestling. Now, one thing I will dispute when they said he was the first gridiron star to ever come over to professional wrestling and, you know, make a name for himself. I say, what about Bronco Nagurski? But hey, what do I know? I'm just a historian about this type of crap, WWE. But here's what I'll say. I know a lot of you are expecting me to fly off the handle about this. It was Black History Month, and yeah, you probably already know what I'm going to say. So why even say it like that? Here's what I will say, though. When I see that package, it's very well done. And I do appreciate the WWE for showing this to help educate their younger audience about real trailblazers and industry changers like a big cat Ernie Ladd and introducing a new generation of fans to somebody like him, a true legend of the business. But to me, the WWE in a lot of ways is very similar and reminiscent here in the United States to the Republican Party. And here's what I mean, is the landscape of the country is changing. The demographics of the country are changing. And yet the WWE, just like the Republican Party, is completely out of touch with that. Whereas the Republican Party in 2008 and 2012, you know, legitimately seemed to be surprised, especially in 2012, that they didn't win the presidential election. It was very simple to understand if you removed yourself from the bubble why that was. You can make all the excuses and talk about all the biases you want. But when you still continue to sit there and be a party that is only gearing yourself towards the old white rich vote, and all the while the voting base of black and Hispanic voters is growing and growing in power in size and numbers and will only continue to do so, and you continue to do things to disenfranchise those groups, not only will you continue to see the results that you're seeing, they're only going to get worse if you don't change. The point I'm getting at here is that with the WWE in 2014, in a world where black and Hispanic athletes dominate the sports scene, especially here in the United States, you cannot tell me that it is fully believable to an audience to sit there and see this industry still being predominantly dominated by the white athlete. I think it's a little ridiculous and frankly a little insulting to the fans' intelligence. And a lot of fans I know agree with me on that. Some do not. But it is what it is. The WWE must, with all their talk about Martin Luther King's dream and all this that they're going to talk about with Black History Month, they must realize just how truly out of touch with the times that they are, and the fact that their product, frankly, especially here in the United States, lacks a lot of believability and credibility because they don't have more, in particular, black wrestlers in big-time spots. With sports like basketball and football, you just had a black quarterback win the Super Bowl, crushing the Denver Broncos and their white traditional pocket passer in Peyton Manning. But when you watch WWE's product, pretty much all the top guys are white. The WWE is very disconnected from the reality of society today, and it's a shame. Well, not surprising to me, since Batista won the Royal Rumble, you need to have something for him to do at Elimination Chamber. So it looks like they're going full steam ahead with him against Alberto Del Rio. And, I'll sit there and I'll say this. They're trying. They're trying. But the bottom line is this is the same ADR that I just saw a while back job do Sin Cara a couple of different times. And now I'm supposed to believe he can actually beat Batista? And they're trying to make him aggressive, and they're trying to make you care about him. But the fact is, I just don't. And it seems like most of the WWE audience agrees with me. Maybe put a different guy in this spot against Batista. I don't know, maybe somebody that actually gets a crowd reaction. Frankly, I laughed when it was announced that the Wyatts were going to take on the team of R-Truth, Xavier Woods, and Dolph Ziggler. And I laughed for two reasons. Number one, there was no way in the world you were going to get me to believe anything other than the Wyatts were going to squash these three clowns. And number two, I knew they were going to have Dolph Ziggler do the job. Wow. How sad. I did like that earlier in the night, I forgot to point this out, that they gave Luke Harper a little bit of mic time. I like that. Because I think this guy has potential too, just like Bray Wyatt in his character has a tremendous amount of potential. I think Luke Harper is somebody to watch and somebody that throughout 2014 you're going to see grow a little bit as a performer, get more over, and start to establish himself as a future player for this company. I'll tell you who isn't a future player for this company at this point is Dolph Ziggler. When I looked at the clock last night and it said it was like 10:30 Eastern, I said, oh man, the only thing it seems like they really got left is the main event match between Daniel Bryan and Randy Orton. Ugh. And I already had this kind of meh feeling about this show, and I was just kind of, again, waiting for the show to get over. And again, this was a Raw this week, at least, that reminded you how much of a haul and how much of a workload it could be to actually watch 3 hours of this on a week-in, week-out basis. I really did not have a lot of desire to see these two guys wrestle for 25, 30 minutes. And that's exactly what I got. This is a match I have seen several times now. This is a match I do not really care to see anymore. Keep in mind, this is a match that a lot of you want to see as the main event of WrestleMania 30. I don't want to anymore. They've kind of run this into the ground, and it's run its course for the time being. I do find it convenient that if it was anybody else in this spot other than Daniel Bryan, a lot of you would be pooning on it and saying the exact same things that I do. But magically, because it is Daniel Bryan and he's so awesome in the ring and all this other crap, that you'll look past that. I'm just asking for some consistency here. Some non-bias. If you're going to call out other people for it, and legitimately so, then do it when it involves one of your guys as well. I'm just saying. Now, I saw a lot of people talking about the great storytelling and of this match. But it felt like to me, for most of it, that Daniel Bryan was almost being the heel in this match in some ways, continuously working over Randy Orton and continuously working over his leg. And then Randy Orton is sitting there getting this shit kicked out of his leg, and his leg worked over for like 15 minutes. And then within a couple of minutes, he apparently forgets that he had his leg worked over for 15 minutes. This was not the best example of storytelling in this match. And then, you've got in the beginning of the show, they're talking about, Randy has a chance to prove himself to be the face of the WWE, but they still have Kane come out and help. And Daniel Bryan still gets the win anyways. So it was kind of like the WWE sat there and said, you know what, we need to throw these guys at least a little bit of a frickin' burn here and have Daniel Bryan win and have this triumphant moment and then immediately remind them that we decide what they want and we decide what they're going to see and we decide how things really go because we work the fans don't work us. Henceforth, why they had Randy Orton and Kane beat down Daniel Bryan. And there's Kane, which I knew something was going to happen with Kane because before the match I had retweeted what one of the other websites had said about his pyro being on there, which I had noticed too. I'm like, this is going to be the beginning of Triple H versus Daniel Bryan at Mania. God needs his Mania payout too, brother. So a lot of you that think at this moment that creative plans are going to change so much that they're going to have Daniel Bryan walk out of WrestleMania 30 with the belt, I really truly hope you're right. But I'm just preparing you for the possibility that you're totally dead-ass wrong. And what I saw here would suggest just that. that now that Punk's out of the way, you've got to give Triple H a big time Mania match. So here comes Daniel Bryan. And from a storyline standpoint, that makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? Triple H represents the authority. Daniel Bryan represents the ones oppressed by the authority. So he should, in theory, storyline-wise, have a match with Triple H at WrestleMania 30. I am actually okay with that. Because if we're talking about storytelling, that does go with storytelling. It'd be really nice if Vince actually came on camera during the road to WrestleMania and put his stamp on Daniel Bryan and actually endorsed Daniel Bryan against his son-in-law and his daughter. I'm just saying. But, this whole thing of this show is you had the backdrop of this being the first Raw since everybody found out that CM Punk is gone. And now with Punk basically getting the Benoit treatment on camera, Punk's signs getting confiscated, people not getting ejected from their arenas, no, that seems silly, but getting their signs confiscated, the announcers ignoring the chants, yeah, I mean, this was an awkward show, and it didn't really surprise me what I saw. It was also awkward to see that they didn't have John Cena on this entire show. What, just because of an eye injury? Even though immediately after the cameras went off the air, here comes John Cena to save Daniel Bryan from Randy Orton and Kane. This show was just very meh. And you could really tell that the WWE is deep down uncertain of themselves in a lot of ways. And it seems like to me they're unsure of their direction heading into WrestleMania 30. All I know is this, is that they need to get past the bullshit and they need to start doing better shows than what they gave us this week.